Welcome to Japanese History for Everyone, where we are currently taking a deep dive into the circumstances that led to the fall of the Tokugawa Bakufu. From the last videos, we established that during the Edo period, upper-ranking samurai and the merchants were associated with corruption, while the peasants and lower-ranking samurai were suffering from poverty, famine, and exploitation. In this video, we'll discuss how the bottom group came together to envision a new future for Japan under new leadership, namely the emperor. Now, I also want to acknowledge that I haven't really gone into any details about the artisans, but for the sake of this series, we can kinda lump them in with the commoners, meaning, generally speaking, they felt similarly to the peasants and the lower-ranking samurai. So this story starts with a school of thought called Mito Ideology. Mito Ideology focused on a few things, but for the sake of this video, I want to focus on their reverence for the emperor. Now, remember, while the emperor was on top of the social hierarchy above the samurai, in reality, the emperor was more of a figurehead, and the shogun was the true leader of Japan. But it was the emperor, not the shogun, that was seen as the religious leader of Japan, and that the gods expressed their will through him. Since followers of Mito ideology believed that religion and political leadership should be intertwined, they believed that only the emperor could properly guide Japan in the right direction. It was also argued that taking power away from the emperor is what led to the slow degradation of Japanese society, because the Tokugawa Bakufu and its leaders favored their private gain over the good of the people, and thus split the country apart. They believed by restoring the emperor to his rightful place, this would unify the country under their loyalty and respect for him, and they could work together towards a brighter future. Now, this ideology existed very early on in the Edo period, but it didn't really take off until later when things got progressively bad and people wanted something new to latch onto. In 1864, a group of armed Mito samurai led an event known as the Tengu Insurrection, where a group of nearly 150 priests and peasants climbed Mount Tsukuba in modern Ibaraki Prefecture and announced their dedication to the policy of revering the emperor and expelling the barbarians. Son no Joi. Over the next few hours, the group grew to over 1,000 participants, who marched together against the shogunate army. The event lasted several months, until they were eventually overpowered and forced to surrender. In the aftermath, hundreds were executed or banished. But though the insurrection failed, Mito samurai encouraged many peasants to join them in following Mito ideology. Samurai activists educated them on the ideology, even conferring semi-samurai titles in return for financial assistance. Mito ideology was also spread through provincial schools and with the help of Shinto priests. In the end, while the Tengu insurrection was once again a failure in the short term, in the long term, Mito ideology was able to spread further among the common people and weaken the overall power of the Tokugawa Bakufu. The samurai from Satsuma that led the Boshin War of 1868 to 1869 were also followers of Mito ideology, and they wanted to restore the emperor to power. They and their allies fought against the Tokugawa government and their allies. Over those 2 years, approximately 120,000 men fought and over 13,000 were killed or wounded. The Satsuma and Choshu samurai eventually won, and the Tokugawa shogun was forced to abdicate, and the country was united under imperial rule. Full disclosure, reverence for the emperor was only half of Mito ideology, and the other half was an isolationist policy and calls to expel the barbarian, i.e. Westerners. But we're going to save that half of the conversation for the next and final video in this series. So stay tuned and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions.